I am Alpha, and my sworn rival is none other than Fu Jing. During these 2 years at the Federal Military Academy, we have shared a class and a dormitory. Our exchanges have scarcely exceeded 10 sentences. Yet we have clashed a staggering 17 times, each encounter culminating in bloodshed that I had assumed this rivalry would persist until graduation. However, from a certain day onward, I found myself, akin to a heat-stricken Omega, stealthily climbing into his bed each night. I yearned for the solace of his pheromones to assuage my fervent desires. I have succumbed to pheromone dependency. 01.it is now midnight, 12:02, and the dormitory has succumbed to darkness and tranquility. Everyone is fast asleep, except for me. As per usual, I lie upon Fu Jing's bed. Nestled in his embrace, I am intoxicated by the scent of his pheromones. It is reminiscent of the ocean tide under the sun. So delightful that it lulls me into a drowsy state. My eyes half closed at this sweltering hour. Fu Jing is clad only in sleep shorts. His skin boasts a healthy, sun-kissed complexion, a shade I adore, though I could never achieve such a tan. In the dim light, I can discern the smooth contours of his abdominal muscles, pectorals, and the alluring vline, a physique that is nothing short of perfection. Even though we are adversaries, I cannot deny this fact. After a considerable time, the heat within me gradually subsides, and my rationality begins to return. Just as I intend to sneak back to my own bed, as I have done countless times before, Fu Jing unexpectedly stirs. She turns over. Caught off guard, I tumble onto him. A sharp pain grazes my lips, and I instantly taste the metallic tang of blood. Moments later, I feel something soft pressed against my mouth. Is that Fu Jing's lips? In a moment of impulsive folly, I lick them, and the briny flavor mingled with blood floods my senses. For several seconds, my mind goes blank. Yet, as the realization of my actions dawns upon me, I hastily flee back to my own bed. Forget this. Forget all of it. It was merely an accident, not a kiss, I tell myself. Yet, I find it impossible to sleep soundly that night. I in both dreams and wakefulness, I am haunted by that soft sensation and the overwhelming scent of the ocean tide enveloping me. When I awaken, the dawn has already broken. As I prepare to rise, I am struck by a familiar, chilling sensation of dampness. Goodness. I cannot believe that such a fleeting, inconsequential kiss has elicited this reaction. How scandalous, utterly scandalous. While my roommate remains asleep, I hurriedly change out of my soiled pants and wash them clean, and I repeatedly admonish myself. Forget about this incident. Yet, the oblivious Fu Jing seems intent on bringing it up time and again. Upon entering the grand classroom, I was immediately intercepted by an individual named Go Shi, a sycophant of Fu Jing, who is but a mere lackey. Fu Jing hails from an illustrious lineage. His father is a marshal of the Federation, and his mother is a renowned physician. Everyone in the school, without exception, seeks to forge a connection with him, and Go Shi is no different. However, lacking access to Fu Jing's inner circle, he resorts to petty tactics to curry favor, such as provoking those whom Fu Jing disdains, namely me. Ah, President, what happened to your lips? Surely, it wasn't an adventurous night? In the past, I would have brushed off such taunts, but this time, I found myself recalling the events of the previous night, causing my breath to falter. Noting my reaction, Go Shi assumed he had struck a chord and grew smug. Which family did you indulge with? Was it thrilling enough? Oh, I forgot you hail from the trash star. You must be familiar with such things. Go Shi. A voice rich with magnetism interrupted him. It was Fu Jing. In an instant, I recognized him by his voice alone. As expected, Go Shi approached him with exaggerated deference. Boss, you've arrived? What are you discussing? Fu Jing's arms crossed, his piercing gaze directed at me. Go Shi was just sharing that the president spent last night with the thunder and fire. Go Shi proclaimed, as if presenting a treasure. Fu Jing's lips, which I had touched just the night before, now curled in mockery. Oh, is that so, President? There was no need for me to explain, nor could I. Thus, I prepared to turn away. Yet, Fu Jing suddenly grasped my hand. His intense gaze fixated on my lips as he asked in a low voice, Have you? Did you mark him? Let go. I attempted to withdraw my hand, but his grip was unyielding. Fu Jing persisted. Did you engage with him? Did you mark him? What vulgarity! How dare he speak of marking so casually? I retorted, Are you out of your mind? He pressed his lips together, then abruptly reached for my face. Sensing the tension, fellow students hurried to defuse the situation. Ha ha ha, perhaps the weather is too dry. Look, even Fu Jing's lips are chapped. Indeed, one might think you two shared a passionate kiss. At that moment, my heart halted. It was in this brief pause that Fu Jing's hand found its way to my lips, his rough fingertips rubbing against them, igniting pain and heat. To what extent have you progressed? What was it like? What is his pheromones scent? He pressed relentlessly. What scent? The briny aroma of the ocean. Perhaps. A nauseating mixture of seafood. But he was insufferable. Unable to endure any longer, I declared, I can show you what it feels like to be hit. With that, I seized his hand from my lips, twisted it fiercely, and swiftly landed a punch to his face. For the 18th time, we were at it again. The first and second of the command department were embroiled in a fierce tussle. Just as I had him pinned to the ground, my hands around his neck, a sudden wave of tingling numbness surged up my tailbone, causing my limbs to weaken. My heart pounded heavily. My condition had relapsed, and in front of hundreds, I was succumbing once more. This time it was more intense than ever. I felt my energy drain, collapsing to the ground. The adversary I had anticipated would take advantage of my vulnerability surprisingly halted his assault. He knelt beside me, concern etched on his brow. Gulu, are you all right? Stay away from me, I gasped, aware that I lacked control over his pheromones, especially in moments of weakness. I feared that proximity would strip me of my sanity. Upon hearing my words, Fu Jing's expression darkened. I thought he might leave, but instead he effortlessly swept me into his arms. What are you doing? Put me down. I protested, his pheromones rendering me weak. Yet they were intoxicatingly pleasant. He pressed his forehead against mine, and my breath hitched, my heart racing. Damn it! My body, long dormant, began to stir once more. A cursed dependency on his pheromones. You have a fever, he murmured, his voice deep and hoarse, almost coaxing. Be obedient. My eyes widened in disbelief. Obedient? Was he treating me like one of his conquests? How repulsive. An unexpected pain twisted in my heart, and then darkness enveloped me as I fainted. When I awoke again, night had fallen, and 4 hung from my arm, and I lay in the infirmary bed, with Fu Jing dozing beside my pillow. Why was he here? Our proximity was unnervingly close, merely a few inches apart. A slight movement would bridge that distance. In his slumber, his lips parted slightly, a glimmer of moisture appearing. My heart raced anew, perhaps a symptom of my ongoing condition. Why could I not tear my gaze from his lips? 2 voices echoed in my mind. We are so close. If I shift just slightly, we could be even closer. That day, I fled the infirmary, unable to reconcile the thoughts I had harbored about Fu Jing. Surely, it was merely an exacerbation of my pheromone dependency. It had to be. Finding a moment, I visited the hospital. Your pheromone dependency is indeed worsening. It may ultimately lead to gland rupture, rendering you incapacitated, the doctor warned gravely. As I absorbed his words, a wave of exhaustion washed over me. What should I do now? My advice is to address the issue rather than suppress it, the doctor replied. Simply relying on scent is a temporary fix. To alleviate your symptoms genuinely, you must seek a more direct method to acquire the pheromones you desire. Unease crept into my heart. A more direct method? The doctor bluntly scribbled a few phrases. Deep kiss? Temporary mark? Permanent mark? What? I shot up, my chair clattering to the floor. The doctor seemed unfazed by my reaction. Although a true mark cannot be established between you two, the actions remain the same. I trust you comprehend this. He handed me a paper detailing my diagnosis, with those ominous terms scrawled across it. Deep kiss, temporary mark, permanent mark. Returning to the military academy, I found myself in a daze. The prospect of deep kissing Fu Jing, marking him, sharing a bed? Such notions were inconceivable. We were perpetually at odds, bickering and fighting. Even if I could sneak into his bed each night for a whiff of his pheromones, the 3 actions the doctor mentioned were beyond the reach of a single individual. Was I to simply allow this ailment to worsen? From the refuse of the trash star to the imperial star, from a discarded wretch to the president of the foremost military academy, from helplessness to the pinnacle of the command department, I had spent over a decade striving for this transformation. Due to this inexplicable illness, I refused to succumb. Preoccupied with my thoughts, I failed to pay attention to my surroundings and, in my distraction, collided with someone. I apologize, I said while raising my gaze, only to find myself face to face with Fu Jing. President, just returned from a date? He crossed his arms, narrowing his eyes as he scrutinized me. To be fair, Fu Jing possessed a strikingly handsome and sharp visage, brimming with youthful vigor and confidence, undeniably captivating. It was evident that he had been raised in a loving, affluent environment, a stark contrast to my own existence. Thus, even I found it difficult to tear my gaze away from him upon our initial encounter. Yet, while he was amiable to everyone else, he reserved a unique disdain for me, perhaps due to my origin from a lesser background. It has nothing to do with you, I replied, attempting to walk away. He swiftly stepped in my path. We are classmates from the same department, roommates even. Can't I show a bit of concern for you? Is prying into others' private lives your peculiar obsession? I began to roll up my sleeves, a signal of impending conflict. Fu Jing, undeterred, countered, President, just a few days ago I saved you. He gestured toward my clenched fist. Is this how you treat your savior? I hesitated. While my illness was indeed triggered by him, to outsiders, it was he who had brought the feverish me to the infirmary. I did not like him, that was true, but I was not unreasonable. What kind of compensation do you desire? I inquired. He raised an eyebrow, his expression less than pleasant, yet he replied, how about you treat me to a meal? This was hardly a significant request, and I nodded in agreement. However, just as I was about to ask what he wished to eat, he caught sight of the report in my hand. What's that? He asked, curiosity evident in his eyes. I instinctively shrank my hand. It's nothing. Yet he seemed unwilling to let it go. What do you mean, nothing? I saw hospital written on it. Surely it's not the compatibility test for pheromones with that person, is it? Have you decided to be with him? Fu Jing. I furrowed my brow. I do not wish to engage in conflict with you today. I was exhausted, utterly fatigued. Anyone aware of their dependence on others for survival would find it hard to be content, especially knowing that their life hung by a thread. Yet, he seemed determined to pursue that absurd conjecture, relentlessly pressing on, even attempting to take action. Instinctively, I employed a combat technique to halt his outstretched hand. Reflexively, I contemplated pinning him to the ground, but in that moment of instinct, I loosened my grip on the test report. Just then, a gust of wind swept through, carrying the report into the school river. Fu Jing. Damn it, the meal never materialized, and our discord escalated. By day, as classmates, we engaged in an endless cold war. However, by night, as if under some spell, we found ourselves entwined in each other's arms. My illness was indeed worsening. Without needing the diagnostic report, I could feel the decline in my physical condition during training. My stamina was gradually waning. I could not bear the consequences of a severe illness. Desperate to alleviate my condition, even a mere kiss would suffice. Thus, one night, I once again climbed into his bed. He was fast asleep, blissfully unaware as I pressed my soft lips against his. As they turned crimson and slightly swollen, I gently brushed against them. They were soft, yet ineffective. A deeper kiss was necessary. So, I exerted a bit more pressure, coaxing his lips apart slightly, and leaned in once more. I lacked experience. The only time I had kissed anyone was with Fu Jing, and that had been an accident, leaving me feeling clumsy. My lips glistened with moisture from our contact, yet my ailment remained unrelieved. Perhaps my position was incorrect. I raised myself slightly, intending to change angles. However, as I turned my gaze, I found myself locking eyes with a pair of familiar ones. Eye contact. Fu Jing was awake. How could he have woken? Did he realize what I was doing? Would he expose me? In that instant, my mind went blank, and I instinctively attempted to tumble off the bed. But halfway through, I was seized around the waist and forcefully thrown back onto the bed. Before I could react, Fu Jing had leaned over me. Why did you do that? His forearm rested against my neck, ready to strike at any moment. Since I had been caught in the act, there was no need for further concealment. Moreover, I genuinely required his pheromones. I resolved to be forthright, perhaps leading to a favorable outcome, despite the slim odds. I am drawn to your pheromones, and I need them, I confessed. What must I do for you to allow me to continue? Stop, stop, stop. Before I could finish, he abruptly covered my mouth. I looked up to see a peculiar flush creeping across his sun-kissed face. He was blushing. However, casually commenting on a same-sex individual's pheromones was indeed a rather audacious act. Yet, the scent of the sea was undeniably alluring. At that thought, I instinctively licked my lips, only to remember that his hand still covered my mouth. He suddenly sprang up from the bed, colliding with the ceiling with a thud before collapsing back onto the mattress. My two roommates remained oblivious, sound asleep. You, he exclaimed, cradling the hand I had inadvertently licked, his expression one of sheer terror. You. I understood his discomfort at being violated by another male, and I promptly apologized. I'm sorry, But he raised his hand to silence me. Stop, don't say anything. Let me think. This is all just too. He found it hard to accept, which was entirely reasonable. I struggled with it too. The fact that we hadn't come to blows was already a surprise to me. After several minutes, he finally spoke again, asking, you really like my pheromones? Yes, I replied. There's a certain fatal allure. Fatal allure? He echoed. Yes, without your pheromones I might perish. Perish? Without them? Yes, that's the case. I never imagined you would be so. Neither did I, but I cannot control myself. It's an affliction. You're saying you suffer from such an affliction? Yes. His expression shifted, revealing his inner turmoil, and his gaze towards me became increasingly peculiar. So, do you wish to continue indulging? He asked. Without hesitation, I nodded. If I were to cease, my dependency on his pheromones would only worsen. After a long pause, Fu Jing let out a heavy sigh, as if he had resolved to make a decision that defied tradition. Very well, he said, you are the president, your grades are on par with mine, so you might as well be deemed worthy of me. True to his privileged upbringing, he insisted on determining compatibility even in matters of pheromones. He added, but we must establish 3 rules. This seemed reasonable and I nodded, go ahead. First, you can't lose your temper with me as you used to. Had I ever been the one to provoke him? Wasn't he the one who always taunted me? Yet, for the sake of survival, I acquiesced. Second, you must sever ties with those outside. Those outside? Was he referring to my admirers? I had never intended to pursue anything with them, so I could easily agree. I nodded. Anything else? He paused momentarily, contemplating before replying. Not for now, let's discuss it later. I raised an eyebrow, initially expecting him to take advantage of the situation. Yet I was pleasantly surprised by his willingness to negotiate. Could it be that our past misunderstandings had been too profound? Once he finished speaking, recalling the doctor's instructions, I too ventured to speak. I will acquiesce to all your demands, but I require frequent deep kisses and, my words trailed off. A temporary mark, even a permanent one, could be overlooked. After all, we were merely collaborators, and for both of us, a mark was more akin to anguish than intimacy. To my astonishment, his face flushed even deeper, and he muttered, promiscuous. I was taken aback. Was he imitating my words? However, before I could fully process the moment, he suddenly extended his hand, pulling me into his embrace. He then leaned down, continuing that shallow stolen kiss. 08. Fu Jing was, in fact, quite an admirable individual. It was only after our collaboration officially commenced that I came to realize this. Despite being mere partners, he seemed to regard me as a friend, demonstrating profound respect and camaraderie. After combat training, he would tend to my wounds and soothe my bruises. Following physical training, he would procure water for me and present me with towels. Rain or shine, he would remind me to carry an umbrella or to dress warmly. When I suffered from headaches or fevers, he would prepare hot water and procure medicine for me. Even upon learning of my slight nutritional deficiencies, he would personally cook soup and gather supplements. This sensation was remarkable. First, I had never imagined that the son of a military school bully and a federal marshal could be such a nurturing figure. Second, having come from a marginalized planet, even after attaining the position of president, few were willing to engage with me on a deeper level. His differences and his attentiveness moved me profoundly, softening my heart immensely. Others, of course, were oblivious to these nuances. They merely sensed that we were no longer at odds. Yet, what they failed to understand was that, on the training ground, we fought with fervor, and off it, we kissed with the same intensity. Open your mouth. He lightly brushed his lips against the corner of my mouth, his voice husky. Breathing heavily, I parted my lips, allowing him to delve deeper. As our collaboration progressed, our chemistry grew increasingly harmonious. Such actions had seamlessly woven themselves into our daily lives. Just moments into the kiss, he suddenly bit my lip. Before I could process it, I stared at him, bewildered. He gritted his teeth. You accepted something from someone else today. Huh? Did I? I pondered with my slightly muddled mind. I wasn't paying attention at that moment, I replied. In retaliation, he bit down on my neck. Ouch. It was somewhat painful. Fu Jing's breath hitched, and he vehemently stated, Gulu, from now on, do not accept anything from others. I can provide you with all you desire. I chuckled softly. Fu Jing's toothy grin resembled that of a playful wolf cub, utterly endearing. Seeing me smile seemed to lighten his mood. He unexpectedly pecked the bite mark on my neck, coaxing, good. It tickled a bit, prompting me to turn my head and, trembling with anticipation, I asked, do you wish to continue? If not, I would resume training. However, his breath grew even more erratic as he turned my head and kissed me fiercely once more. The scent of ocean waves in his pheromones was utterly intoxicating. Unable to resist, I released a hint of my own initial snow-scented pheromones to intertwine with his ocean aroma. A thought flickered in my mind. Perhaps it wouldn't be so bad to remain like this. A friendship of lips, akin to ironclad comrades. Yet, I had forgotten about the uncontrollable sensitivity of my own heat period. 09. Having just completed my school assignment, I received a call from Fujing. His breath came in quick bursts as he said, "I'm at the hotel outside campus, room 405. Before he could finish, a loud crash echoed, and the call abruptly ended. The harmonious rapport we shared, coupled with his attentive care, had fostered a sense of concern within me. He was likely in danger. I immediately made my way to his location. Upon reaching the door of room 405, I braced myself for reconnaissance and was prepared to contact others from my class. However, before I could act, I was yanked inside and forcefully pinned against the door. Instinctively, I attempted to retaliate, but upon catching a glimpse of the face before me, I froze. It was Fujing. I then relaxed my resistance. He appeared to be in distress, his complexion flushed, breath labored, eyes reddened, veins protruding. Upon detecting the overwhelming scent of ocean waves in the room, it dawned on me. Fujing was in his heat period. During such times when two individuals collided, could be described as an explosive encounter. It was a fire of flesh and blood. I'll step out. I had no desire to engage with him now. Let me go, Fujing. Yet, to my surprise, he tightened his grip at my words, gritting his teeth. Where do you think you're going? You're in your heat period. Before I could finish, he bit down harshly on my lip, the metallic taste of blood filling my mouth. Wolf cub, are you going to find that person? He interrogated. I frowned. What? He shouted hoarsely. You smell just like him. The scent of that person. I recalled that during a task. I had rescued someone in a heat state. I must have picked up that scent then. Yet he offered me no chance to explain, bombarding me with questions. Last time, your lip was bitten by him, wasn't it? Do you like him that much? Who exactly is he? Now that you're like this with me, are you still in contact with him? He pressed on, simultaneously applying pressure to my gland. His grip so forceful that it felt as though he might rupture the tender flesh. His other arm encircled my waist, tightening to the point of almost suffocation. Unable to contain myself any longer, I pivoted to deliver a punch to rouse him from his stupor. Perhaps my actions only served to infuriate him further. He seized me and tossed me onto the bed. 10. As Fujing's sharp canines pierced my gland, the rich scent of ocean waves flooded my body. My unique initial snow-scented pheromones responded in kind. The two superior pheromones clashed within me, each striving to eradicate the other's essence. The pain was excruciating, entirely different from mere physical anguish. Every cell within me was clamoring in rebellion. I reminded myself that he was in his heat period, and I needed to exercise patience. Yet Fujing seemed perpetually insatiable, driving his teeth deeper, pouring in more pheromones. His arms, encircling my waist, tightened further, as if he sought to meld my being with his own. He is provoking me. He is attempting to dominate me. My pheromones conveyed this sentiment. The moment such thoughts crossed my mind, my initial snow scent erupted from my gland, filling the entire room. My heat period was triggered. Indeed, during such times, rationality was lost. I too succumbed to this loss of control. Utilizing the combat techniques I had learned, I reversed our positions, pinning him to the bed, firmly grasping his neck and tugging at his hair, landing a heavy punch to his face. After bruising his cheek, I immediately leaned down to bite his gland. Let us plunge into this abyss together. Let us endure this suffering together. Ugh, Fujing growled, his body taut. As I reveled in the realization that his body was filled with my pheromones, he swiftly flipped us, pinning me beneath him. The scents of ocean waves and initial snow clashed fiercely, neither willing to yield. Our eyes locked, both flushed with fervor, the veins on our arms prominently displayed. Gulu, you cannot defeat me, he taunted with a smirk, then grasped my chin, kissing me fiercely. I responded with an unwavering spirit. For the two phases of susceptibility, this was hardly a kiss. It was sheer biting. The metallic taste of blood exchanged between us nearly drove us to madness. The sound of fabric tearing echoed in the air. In an unexpected moment, Fujing bound my hands with the shredded cloth. He leaned closer to my ear and whispered, Gulu, remember the pain I have given you. This is something else that cannot be given to you. I had made numerous projections for my life, yet I never imagined that one day I would engage in a relationship with someone and that it would last 3 days. During this time, I explained the matter of pheromones to him, and in return, he shared that he had never been in love before. This was our first time for both of us. After exchanging our hearts, the atmosphere finally quelled, no longer fraught with tension as if we were engaged in a life-or-death struggle. However, once the phase of susceptibility ended, neither Fujing nor I emerged unscathed. Our bodies bore the marks of battle, and the sheets were too soiled to behold. The love between us felt akin to a fierce confrontation. Upon waking, I found him sitting silently at the edge of the bed, and he suddenly lit a cigarette. "Do you smoke?" I sat up, my voice hoarse from sleep. It hurt quite badly. "I don't smoke," he replied, turning to look at me, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, though it was difficult to discern. It just felt like the right moment for one. I lifted my chin slightly. "Let me try." He scrutinized me for several seconds before taking a deep drag from the cigarette and then leaning in to press his lips against mine. The mentholated smoke swirled between us. We were both novices, and the white haze dissipated swiftly. I licked the residual flavor off my lips and earnestly remarked, "It's not as pleasant as your pheromones." "Damn." He chuckled, extinguishing the cigarette but before returning to kiss me once more. Logically, after being taken by another, my first instinct upon waking should have been to confront him. Yet, rather than doing so, I found myself enticing him into another kiss. Strangely, despite having engaged in such actions countless times before, this time felt inexplicably different. My body ached, yet my heart brimmed with fullness. "Gulu, you are finished. You have developed feelings for your former nemesis, not merely due to that infernal pheromone dependency." The demon residing within me whispered these words. However, after a brief internal struggle, I swiftly accepted this reality. If I liked him, then so be it. Was it such a catastrophic event? After all, we were both the same. Fu Jing was admirable, and I was no less so. Looking towards the future, I would not be unworthy of him. Thus, I resolved to find an opportune moment to clarify our relationship, transitioning from partners to lovers. I believed Fu Jing harbored some feelings for me as well. Otherwise, why would he kiss me at that moment? Alas, I was mistaken. It was my first experience of affection, my first preparation to confess to someone. I felt rather flustered. After an extensive search for tutorials on the Starnet, I ultimately decided to invite him to the Galaxy Pavilion, intending to confess under the vast expanse of stars. I had a deep fondness for stars, as they represented the most unpretentious beauty of our impoverished planet, generously bestowed upon both the affluent and the destitute. My obsession with the stars had sustained me through my journey from the Federation's most destitute world to this place. They were my love, my strength. The reservation was set for February 1st, deemed an auspicious day by the calendar. However, starting from January 30th, my life took a turn for the worse. First, I encountered the troublesome and malevolent Gosher. Meeting him posed no real issue. I could either ignore him or confront him directly. Yet, what irked me was his taunting remark after a series of provocations. He said, "I never imagined our president would be a whore who spreads her legs for Zhang." Ha ha ha. My heart sank. Before I could react, he hurriedly departed. What had he discovered? Did he uncover my affliction? No, even if he knew, it would amount to nothing. The military academy had not explicitly mandated expulsion for students with illnesses, and I had medication now. Yes, the person I liked, my remedy. However, the following day, January 31st, things worsened further. Fu Jing sought me out, filled with rage. He yanked me forcefully into the restroom and locked the door. Without uttering a word, he kissed me fiercely. Yet, after the kiss, his expression was devoid of the previous passion, replaced instead with a chilling indifference. "Gulu," he called my name. I looked at him in confusion. What's wrong? He remained silent, releasing the scent of ocean waves, which enveloped the entire bathroom. I relished this aroma, instinctively inhaling deeply. To my surprise, his fury flared upon witnessing my reaction, and he slammed his fist against the door, shaking the walls. "What is wrong with you?" I asked. "What's wrong?" He scoffed, pressing down heavily on my gland. "I underestimated you." Perhaps my bewildered expression incited his anger. He stepped back, creating distance between us. They were right. The president is cold-hearted, ruthless, and indeed quite capable. My pupils dilated in shock. "Fu Jing, do you even know what you are saying?" I had heard such words before. They meant little to me, but Fu Jing was different. He should not speak to me in such a manner. How could I be cold-hearted? "I certainly know," Fu Jing said, his eyelids drooping slightly as he regarded me with palpable impatience. "In any case, let us consider this matter concluded. I shall not pursue it further." With that, he attempted to leave. I grasped his hand. "Concluded? What are you talking about? Why must it end? I still wish to begin with you." "What? You don't want it to end?" He looked at me, his eyes reddened, filled with malice. "Or do you intend to continue?" Yet, I no longer have the patience to continue, especially since I initially thought being with you would be thrilling, but now I find he surveyed me with cold scrutiny, then stated, "It is nothing remarkable." With those words, he turned away without a hint of mercy. I stood frozen for a long time before suddenly bursting into silent laughter. After the laughter, An overwhelming fatigue washed over me. Thrilling? Nothing remarkable. But my heart was left in shambles, aching and bitter. Fu Jing, you wretched creature. How admirable you are. I retrieved the ticket to the Galaxy Pavilion from my pocket, crumpled it, and tossed it out of the window. So be it. To hell with it. Thankfully, I hadn't voiced my confession. I hadn't truly lost. Yet, I yearned for rest, feeling utterly drained from the morning's physical training, despite the reduced number of exercises. This thought lingered in my mind, yet my feet unconsciously led me downstairs, eventually breaking into a run. I still couldn't bear to part with the ticket to the Galaxy Pavilion. Those stars had always guided me, always accompanied me. They were my love, my strength. In truth, I also couldn't bear to part with Fu Jing. However, as soon as I exited the dormitory, I was ambushed. When I awoke, I found myself bound tightly with hemp ropes in an abandoned factory. Before me stood Go Shi, accompanied by several thugs. What do you intend to do? I quickly regained my composure. Go Shi chuckled sinisterly, his eyes glinting with malice. I don't intend to do anything. I just find you insufferable. A wretched spawn from a trash planet dares to attend the same school as us and presume to be the president? Do you truly believe you are worthy? Once, I could have overlooked it, but now I must ask, what gives you the right to be so close to Fu Jing? Why must I be denied while you bask in his favor? As he spoke, he advanced towards me, unleashing a flurry of punches and kicks, each accompanied by a torrent of insults. Spawn, waste, garbage, bound and immobile, I could do little but endure the barrage. Despite the onslaught, the blows from this little brat were hardly painful. I refused to accept this. Go Shi shouted, finally pausing in his assault. He gazed at me with a smug expression. But even the heavens seem to conspire against you. I happened upon your report card. Ha, our esteemed president, the top of the command department, turns out to be a pathetic creature in need of pheromones. I showed your report card to Fu Jing, and as I predicted, he severed ties with you. Ha ha ha. He finds you repulsive. Was it my illness that led Fu Jing to react that way in the bathroom? But hadn't he known all along? We had already established our partnership. However, this was not the time for such musings. I needed to escape my current predicament. Seizing the moment when they were distracted, I retrieved the microblade hidden in my wristband and began to slice through the ropes binding me. Go Shi remained oblivious, confidently instructing his lackeys, humiliate him thoroughly, no matter the means, and capture his disgraceful visage on film for the Star Network. I want everyone to see. Ha 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 ha. As he finished speaking, the thugs approached me, eager to execute his orders. Just as one of them, with a lewd chuckle, pinned my shoulder down, I finally severed the ropes. In a swift motion, I seized the hand that had touched me and hurled the assailant to the ground. You, how did you break free? Go Shi retreated in alarm. Ignoring him, I engaged with the remaining assailants. Although they possessed reasonable physical prowess, I had mastered lethal techniques. If I truly focused, they would be no match for me. Before long, they lay sprawled on the ground, clutching their bellies and moaning in pain. I stepped on one of their faces, taunting you, but before I could finish, I felt a rush of wind behind me. An ambush. The assailant failed in their attempt and was swiftly dispatched by another. I turned to see Fu Jing. Hadn't he said he would end things? Hadn't he claimed it was nothing? Why was he here? Before I could ponder further, Fu Jing unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks upon the assailant, Go Shi. Unlike me, who favored finesse, Fu Jing relied heavily on brute force. A single blow from him could easily incapacitate Go Shi for weeks, especially in the current situation. In no time, Go Shi was left bloodied and battered, gasping for breath. Yet Fu Jing, exhibiting restraint, refrained from delivering a fatal blow. Once he withdrew, he turned to me, his anger still simmering, his gaze icy. My heart ached, but I mustered a strained smile and uttered, "Thank you. Is that all? Just a simple thanks?" He scoffed, countered, "What would you have me do to express my gratitude? Speak and I shall comply." He fell silent, his eyes reflecting a whirlwind of emotions. Conflict, hesitation, and anguish. What troubled him? I was the one suffering from heartbreak. After a prolonged silence, he finally spoke. "Gu Lu, you deceiver. I had no intention of arguing. Yet I could not help but retort, what have I deceived you about? It is you who is being irrational. Everything had been going so smoothly prior. His sudden outburst was unfathomable, as was his desire to end things. I had even intended to invite him to gaze at the stars with me. Am I being irrational? He laughed bitterly, his eyes bloodshot with rage. Yes, I am indeed irrational. I irrationally wish to date someone who is my sworn enemy. I irrationally invested my genuine feelings, only for the other party to reduce me to a mere tool for harvesting pheromones. I irrationally planned to end all of this, to salvage my dignity. Yet here I am, driven by concern for you, rushing to this very place. I even irrationally considered seeking my father's help to cure your damned illness. He kicked Go Sure, who lay curled on the ground, and lamented. My father is a fool, a sycophant, an idiot. What was he saying? I felt a sense of confusion wash over me. A vague awareness of a misunderstanding between us began to surface. Fu Jing, calm down. I attempted to soothe him, but he was unyielding. Calm down? Do you think our esteemed president is now mocking my naivety? I tried to explain. No, he interjected. No? Then what is it? Taking a deep breath, I said, Fu Jing, listen to me. He glared. Listen to what? Do you intend to pull another trick? No matter what I said, he interrupted, and eventually I lost all patience. If reason failed, then perhaps a scuffle would suffice. I seized him and executed a shoulder throw. He, not to be outdone, sprang back to his feet, ready to fight. Thus, in this derelict factory, we engaged in our 19th brawl of our university lives. Fists and feet flying, we targeted each other's weaknesses, neither yielding an inch, until I managed to lock his throat. Can you hear me now? I asked. He remained silent, stubborn as an ox, his face reddening from my grip, refusing to relent even for a breath. With a weary sigh, I released him. Do you like me? I inquired. He exploded. Who likes you? Don't flatter yourself. You just said so, I reminded him. He fell silent once more. I studied him closely. The face that was once so brimming with confidence and recklessness now bore traces of melancholy and sorrow, like a defeated wolf cub, oppressed and diminished. Seeing his pitiful expression and recalling his earlier tirade, my heart softened. It was a misunderstanding, not weariness. Just a misunderstanding. I stepped forward and gently kissed the corner of his lips, teasingly calling him, fool. I am not. He instinctively began to protest, but I denied him that opportunity. I leaned in again, this time deepening the kiss, gripping his hair and pressing down on the nape of his neck. His breath hitched, and he soon became entwined with me. After the kiss, I pulled back slightly, our noses brushing, and whispered, I didn't realize you thought we were already together. Perhaps our conversation that night didn't resonate. I always believed you were aware of my illness and that we were merely collaborators. His expression darkened considerably, and he opened his mouth to speak, but I interrupted him. I'm glad you want to be in a relationship with me, I continued. He froze in surprise. And you are neither a tool nor a sycophant, I coaxed, gently pecking his warm lips. Fu Jing, you are my star. I watched as his entire face slowly flushed red, starting from his ears. I chuckled softly. Thank you. I like you too. After enduring a prolonged hospital stay of over half a year, he ultimately faced expulsion from school. Those who had assaulted him were incarcerated, receiving sentences lasting several years. The subsequent resolution of the situation was nothing short of impeccable. Initially, I had presumed that his family background would make it difficult for them to accept their son being in a relationship with another man. However, that turned out to be far from the truth. His father and my own were both magnanimous, gentle, and forgiving individuals, esteemed heroes of the Federation. His father patiently guided us in becoming exemplary commanders, while my own father aided me in overcoming my dependency on pheromones. Much like the fantasies I had harbored during my childhood, scavenging on the garbage star, I was fortunate enough to find myself in a loving home, blessed with someone who cherished me deeply. On the occasion of our first anniversary, Fu Jing announced he had a surprise for me. After being blindfolded for what seemed an eternity, the fabric was finally removed, revealing a breathtaking expanse of starlit sky, where countless stars shimmered brilliantly. Yet, it was not the galactic museum I had wished to visit. Rather, it was a ship piloted by him. We meandered through the cosmos, drifting amongst the celestial rivers. His destination was unequivocal. Skillfully maneuvering past cosmic debris and fragments of planets, I was led to a small celestial body just a few light-years from the main star. There floated a little planet, entwined in hues of azure and snow-white, radiating a gentle luminescence. He pointed at the planet and said, Gulu, this is my gift to you. They all say this planet is too small, too inconspicuous, he continued. But they fail to comprehend that it possesses a beauty unmatched by the entire universe. It is the most precious existence in the cosmos. My heart swelled with emotion, threatening to spill from my eyes. Unable to contain myself any longer, I stepped forward and embraced him tightly, declaring, Fu Jing, I now possess 2 stars. My love, my strength. In an alternate perspective, Fu Jing found himself captivated by a strikingly handsome newcomer at the military academy. Rarely did he pay heed to appearances, for he believed that true worth lay in one's capabilities. Yet, Gulu was exceptionally distinctive. Though exquisitely handsome, his demeanor was cold and aloof, his eyes revealing little emotion. It is impossible not to be drawn to beauty, and Gulu possessed both an alluring visage and formidable strength, making it challenging for Fu Jing to ignore him. Initially, he sought to forge a brotherly bond, but circumstances took an unexpected turn, leading to an inexplicable rivalry. Fu Jing was no pushover. He was far from easygoing. Their first confrontation resulted in a flurry of altercations, and despite having fought a total of 17 times, he could not bring himself to hate Gulu. In fact, he found himself unervingly attentive to him, monitoring Gulu's training, health, and social interactions. He was almost obsessively concerned with every aspect of Gulu's life. When he discovered that Gulu might be involved with someone else, the first emotion that surged within him was rage. Confounded by his own feelings, he pondered the reasons behind such emotions until one night he awoke to find the object of his affections in his bed, kissing him. Far from feeling disgust or anger, he felt joy. As he listened to Gulu's words, which resembled a confession, his heart raced, every fiber of his being urging him to accept Gulu, to embrace a romantic relationship. And so he did. The experience of dating Gulu surpassed all his expectations. Beneath that seemingly cold exterior, Gulu revealed a softness and a playful nature that enchanted Fu Jing. He cherished everything about Gulu: the kisses, the laughter, the little temper tantrums. Fu Jing would have gladly moved mountains for him, offering the world on a silver platter. However, when Gulu presented him with a medical report, Fu Jing realized he had been a fool. He had viewed Gulu as a partner, while Gulu had seen him merely as a means to alleviate his affliction. Anger, resentment, and pain surged within him, yet he found himself incapable of severing ties with Gulu. After hurling harsh words in a fit of anger, he hastily sought to return and apologize, even contemplating asking his father to assist Gulu with his ailment. Yes, he was utterly shameless, devoid of dignity. After all, this was Gulu. He acknowledged that he had fallen for him long before this moment. From the very first encounter with Gulu, Fu Jing's world had been enveloped in a never-ending snowfall. The ice and snow could not cover the vast ocean, yet the tides of his heart had long been swept away by the first flurries of love. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this tale, feel free to subscribe and show your support with a like. Until we meet again in the next story.